Hey, good evening, Gwinnett County. You have me, Edward Paul, president of the NAACP Gwinnett County branch. And tonight is our Meet the Candidates forum for the Superior Court judge here in Gwinnett County. So we're honored to have joining with us two of the three candidates that are running for the upcoming candidate forum. Of course, the Superior Court plays a vital role in our community. They pretty much oversee all serious criminal cases, any major civil disputes, any family law matters. So pretty much anything that typically affects the daily lives of Gwinnett County residents, they have an impact in terms of their judicial responsibility. Of course, what we expect from any judge is integrity, impartiality, and a deep commitment to upholding both the state and federal constitution, and quite naturally protecting the rights of, in this case, all people here in Gwinnett County. So before we bring on our guests for tonight, do want to make a couple of quick announcements that we have for any some additional upcoming candidate forums that we have. On May 5th, we have our bites and ballots, and this is in collaboration with other partners of our organization, like the Gwinnett Deltas, League of Women Voters, NCNW, United Ebony Society, and others. That's going to be on May 5th, and that'll be at Hopewell Baptist Church in Norcross at the Faith Hall. And again, that's in May 5th. May 7th, we will have meet the candidate forums with the Gwinnett County school board members that are running for the Gwinnett County School Board in District 2 and District 4. That'll be in person at Grayson High School. And let me back up. The May 5th event will start at 6 p.m. in Norcross. That's for the gubernatorial election. May 7th, which is Gwinnett County School Board, that event will also start at 6 p.m. at Grayson High School. And then May 12th will be our Congressional District 13 Democratic primary. That is the late David Scott's seat. Now that he's made transition and become an ancestor, his seat is now open. So he may still appear on the ballot. However, we are asking everyone to not vote for him since he is deceased. And I'm gonna do something a little bit out of order, to just out of respect for him. I'm just gonna ask everybody to take a brief moment of silence, as in honor of David Scott, as he has made transition. So I just ask everybody to just pause for at least the next 60 to 90 seconds. And we're going to just have a deep, take a moment of silence for him in his honor as he has made transition. All right. I thank you all for that. So at this time, I'll bring in our moderator for tonight, none other than attorney Karen Scott Green, who's gonna kick us off and introduce both the candidates that are currently here, and unfortunately, one of the candidates that was not able to make it to our platform due to a little bit of miscommunication. She was not able to attend.
Good afternoon, President Paul. Thank you for the invitation to moderate this very important race. And as you have stated, there are three candidates currently for an open seat for Division 1 in Gwinnett County to fill the seat that Judge Hutchinson is leaving. He is not seeking reelection, and the three candidates are Magistrate Judge Regina Matthews, Fulton County Deputy District Attorney Ramona Toole, the third candidate, B.T. Gutter Parker, as you stated, was invited to the forum. it was not able to make it. But there are 3 candidates, and we have 2 of them with us. And with that, I'm going to have Judge Regina Matthews give a brief introduction, and then Deputy District Attorney Ramona Toole can do the same.
All right, thank you. Good evening to everyone. President Paul, Attorney Scott Green, members of the Gwinnett NAACP, and viewers. And actually, Attorney Scott Green, before we start, can we also have a moment of reflection or silence for our departed Superior Court judge and my dear friend, Deborah Fluker, if that would be okay? I would be remiss if I didn't honor her in that way. So if we could do that.
Thank you. And so at this time, let's take a minute to honor the memory and the legacy of Judge that just left us, Deborah Fluker. Thank you for that.
Thank you for allowing us to do that. Judge Fluker was a huge part of our Gwinnett legal community and a dear friend, so thank you for that. Good evening again. My name is Judge Regina Matthews, and it's a pleasure to be here with you all tonight. I am one of the candidates for Gwinnett County Superior Court, Division 1. And my campaign, well, let me start off by saying I currently serve as a magistrate court judge here in Gwinnett County. And I was appointed to that role in 2019 by our elected Superior Court judges and our elected Chief Magistrate Judge. It is in that role that I primarily sit by designation in Superior Court, handling and making decisions on the very cases that are brought in that court every day. My campaign is based on 3 values that I bring to the race, that being experience, integrity, and an unwavering commitment to upholding the rule of law. In this time, Gwinnett deserves leaders who bring the best qualifications, experiences, professional history, that will do the job and do it most effectively. I believe I am that candidate. And our courts are no different than any other elected race that we have, in that we want the best and the brightest. I'm doing the work. I'm going to keep doing the work. I'm rolling my sleeves up every day and serving the people of Gwinnett County. And I wouldn't have entered this race or stayed in this race if I didn't wholeheartedly believe that I am the candidate who brings the right qualifications, skills, and experiences at this time to do the job, be ready on day one with no need for on-the-job training. I look forward to engaging with you all this evening, and I hope to have your support at the polls.
And go ahead, Deputy District Attorney Toole.
Thank you, Attorney Green and President Paul, and the members of the Gwinnett County NAACP. I am Ramona Toole, and I am running also for the Gwinnett County Superior Court Judge. I'm a longtime resident of Gwinnett County. I have been practicing law in Georgia for over 2 decades. I have been in courts in Mississippi, Alabama, and Georgia, from traffic court to state court to Superior Court. And I believe with all of that exposure and all of that experience, it has helped me to believe that the people of Gwinnett, they're looking for 3 things from their judges. 1, they're looking for a judge that will follow the law. And I have been following the law in my career for over 2 decades. As the gatekeeper of criminal charges, I know what the law requires. I know what the law dictates. And it is my goal, once I am elected, to follow the law without fear or favor. Two, they're looking for a judge that's going to respect their time. They want these cases to move forward, giving the cases enough time to make sure that make sure that people get an opportunity to be heard, but they want them to continue to move. And so that's what I promise, to be efficient with the time given to me. And then three, they're looking for a judge who's going to treat them with dignity and respect. I have been in a courtroom as a prosecutor where I was yelled at and belittled, and I understand what that feels like for me. I can't even imagine what that feels like for a layperson. And I believe that sometimes people don't come into the courtroom because they are afraid. So it is my promise that when I am elected Superior Court judge, that I will always treat people with dignity and respect. So I have over 20 years of experience. It's not something to be made light of. And I want to bring all that experience to the Superior Court bench. And so I ask you, once you hear our opportunities here on this forum, that when you go to the polls, that you will vote for me, Ramona Toole, and you can check out my website at toolforjudge.com. And I appreciate that opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, DA Toole. Since you're still first up on the screen, I'm going to ask you the first question. For those in the audience who may not know, can you briefly explain the role of a Superior Court judge and the type of cases your courtroom would handle?
So Superior Court judge, as President Paul stated, hear complex civil litigation, family law, which would include marriages and divorce and adoption, and then also they hear felony criminal cases. And when we say felony cases, we're talking about those charges where the penalty is a year or more in confinement. So that could be your armed robbery, your murder, and your rape. And those are the types of cases that come before a Superior Court judge.
Okay. And the next question I'm going to, since that question is not one that both of you need to answer since it was answered so succinctly. For Judge Matthews, Superior Courts in Georgia handle a wide range of matters, as DA Toole just explained, from felony criminal cases to family law. What areas of work do you believe have the greatest impact on our community and why?
That is a tough one because, the decisions that are made in Superior Court impact people in significant ways, whether we are talking about family law or domestic cases, whereby we are deciding in some instances whether to take away someone's child. That, I think, compared with, let's say, a felony criminal case where you're talking about potentially taking away someone's liberty for a long time or for the rest of their life, it's kind of hard to say which of those has a greater, impact on the community every day. I think all of those decisions have to be made by judges who come to the court with a level of compassion, aside from understanding the rule of law, which of course is our greatest responsibility. We do have to have judges who, understand people, who care about people, who care about the work, and who show up every day honoring the commitment to the people of Gwinnett County. So again, I know I didn't answer probably the question the way you wanted me to very specifically, but it really is very difficult to determine which of those types of cases has a greater impact because, these decisions are significant and impact people significantly, whether, again, we're talking about a felony criminal case or a family law matter. We also have the ability to take away people's property, their land, that people may work their entire lives to save up for. So, I can't choose. I'm sorry, attorney.
It's okay. It's okay. Thank you for that answer. DA Toole, same question for you. Which areas of this work do you believe have the greatest impact on the community and why?
I would have to choose criminal because we want to feel safe in our homes. We want to be able to go to the Walmarts and the Publix and feel safe in those communities. And so I think criminal because the people are looking for us to make sure we do justice in keeping those people safe. And so I would have to say criminal. And also, as Judge Matthews says, taking away someone's liberty, you want to make sure that it is within that area of the law, or that is something that the law requires that be done because you don't want to take away someone's liberty and be wrong. So, but you don't want to put someone on the street that may harm someone again. So I'm going to have to say criminal.
Okay, thank you. And Judge Matthews, the next question is for you. What guiding principles shape your approach to interpreting law and ensuring fairness on the bench?
Thank you for that question. I think, as I stated before, our highest duty as judges is to uphold the rule of law. But we also have a responsibility to improve access to justice for individuals that come to our courts, and also to improve the confidence that people have in our courts and in our judiciary. So, my philosophy rests upon all of those goals. And, it's my duty as a judge to determine the facts of the case based on legal merit, not on politics, not on any sort of personal interest or pressures from the outside. And I just keep those core values, I guess, in mind when deciding how to rule on cases. I have to uphold the rule of law. I have to ensure that we're improving access to justice. And I have to, at least I believe, ensure that we are taking steps to improve the confidence that people have in our decision making and in our courts.
That's definitely important. As someone who practices and has practiced in Superior Court, those are definitely important. Same question for you, DA Toole. What guiding principles shape your approach to interpreting the law and ensuring fairness from the bench?
Well, I believe that the role of the court is to follow the law and to move within the boundaries of the law. So that's number one. But one of the things, I'm also a trial lawyer. I've been a trial lawyer since 2008. And one of the things that I tell my jury is that you can't leave your common sense and reason at the door. So I say that to say that I can't leave my common sense, my reasoning, and my compassion. So I bring those to the bench with me as I listen to the facts and evidence, find the law that applies, and apply it with that in mind. Following the law while also being compassionate, being reasonable, and understanding. Understanding that when you look at it, you want to restore the victims, or you want to make sure that the paramount issue that is the child, or if you're in a criminal case, to make sure that we are protecting the public and also trying to reduce recidivism. So that's how I would answer that question.
All right, thank you. The next question is for Judge Matthews. Gwinnett County continues to experience high case volumes, which can lead to delays at hearings and trials in both civil and criminal matters. How would you, as a Superior Court judge, balance the need for efficiency and timely case resolution with the obligation to ensure fairness and due process for all parties? And the second part of that is, what specific strategies or innovations would you implement to improve case flow and scheduling without compromising justice?
All right. This is an important question. And let me start off by saying I'm grateful that our legislature has decided that we need another Superior Court judge. So we did just get a 12th one approved. Hopefully the governor will sign off on that. The caseloads in Gwinnett County are high. And I think with population growth, we will see those numbers continue to increase. That is no excuse, however, for ensuring that we have efficient justice, because part of our duty as justice leaders is to make sure that people don't have to wait for justice. Mm-hmm. And so that is something that I am strongly committed to. Before taking the bench, one of the roles I have the pleasure of having is serving as a senior staff attorney in our Gwinnett County Superior Courts. And I was able to get the intimate, sort of knowledge about court processes, what things work best in scheduling cases, how to aggressively schedule cases, in civil cases, how to use case management orders and deadlines to ensure that those cases continue to move. I think we have to be responsible in using technology when it's available to ensure that we can keep cases moving. Sometimes it's easier to proceed with some types of proceedings in a virtual setup. And I think that helps cases and hearings move along a lot quicker. Some other strategies that I think are important to use. One is knowing when and how to use the judicial assistance that is provided to us in Gwinnett County. Again, I have the pleasure of serving as a full-time magistrate, and in that role, I primarily provide the judicial assistance to other courts, primarily Superior Court. And so one of my strategies would be to utilize our judges who are there to offer judicial assistance. And I see my time is up, so I'll just rest there. I could talk about efficiency for a long time, but thank you for that.
All right. DA Toole, the same question for you. How would you as a Superior Court judge balance the need for efficiency and timely case resolution with the obligation to ensure fairness and due process to all parties? And what specific strategies or innovations would you implement to improve caseload and scheduling?
So I believe that every case needs to have enough time for people to get their evidence together, get their discovery together, to make sure it's served on each parties. And so I've also served in the Gwinnett County Superior Court, which is the second largest county, and I've served in the largest county of Georgia, which is Fulton County. And so what I see that works well are scheduling orders. The great thing about scheduling orders is that the first time that a case appears in your courtroom, letting them know the guidelines and the timeline that you are expecting this case to go forward. It puts everyone on notice. And if you give people enough time after receiving it early on in the case, they'll have enough time to see, do I need an extension? Do I need more time? Do I need to take leave? Is this going up too quickly? And then you give both parties an opportunity when we come back to say, can we extend discovery? Can we extend the time to file motions? Can we extend the time to have pretrial conferences? So I believe scheduling orders would help put everyone on notice of what the expectation is. And at the same time, they can also check and see if that's enough time or do they need more time to get those things accomplished. So putting everyone on notice up front, I think helps a lot. And then also make sure that when we're talking about continuances, that we make sure that they are legal continuances and we don't allow people to use that to delay a case.
Yeah, that can be frustrating. And DA Toole, while I have you up, the next question will be for you first. Gwinnett County has chosen to heavily rely on appointed private attorneys rather than the traditional public defender's office to represent indigent defendants. Given that structure and the constraints of the Georgia Indigent Defense Act, how would you ensure timely appointments, effective representation, and efficient case movement when case volumes are high? And the second part of that is, do you believe this model adequately protects defendants' rights, or would you advocate for changes within that system?
So I've worked in a system in Gwinnett where it's appointed list, and I've worked where it's a public defender. Both have great attorneys. I have worked with phenomenal attorneys on the appointed list in Gwinnett and phenomenal attorneys in Fulton where it is a public defender. I think the way to make sure that a defendant's rights are protected, again, when you have them on, particularly in criminal cases, when you have them on the calendar for plea and arraignment. So typically after a person has been arrested, the case goes through the district attorney's office, they make a determination whether to indict, and then once it is indicted, 9 times out of 10, the next time it appears on the calendar or the first time is plea and arraignment. So if you ask the person, the accused at plea and arraignment, if they need an attorney, then I think that, make sure that they get an attorney in a timely fashion, and then they have someone to start the process and walk through the process with. And if some way along the line, someone maybe thought they had an attorney and they don't have an attorney now, as soon as they let the court know if they qualify for an appointed attorney. Get them an appointed attorney as soon as they notify the courts. And we have great appointed attorneys in Gwinnett County.
All right, thank you.
I
As
look
someone,
forward to the opportunities of wanting to.
yes, thank you. And Judge Matthews, the same question for you. I will repeat it because it was a little long. Given the current structure and the constraints of the Georgia Indigent Defense Act, how would you timely ensure that appointments are made, that defendants have effective representation and efficient case movement when case volumes are high? And do you believe that the current system adequately protects defendants' rights, or would you advocate for change within the system?
So, as a former public defender, I can't think of a more noble profession in the law. So, I have a very soft spot in my heart for attorneys who do public defender work. I will say that, of paramount importance, of course, in a criminal proceeding is ensuring that we have equal, I guess, sort of balances on both sides of the courtroom. The state has its interests, but obviously the defendant has to have his or her interests protected. There are many rights, as you all know, afforded by our Constitution, and we have to have attorneys who are ready, willing, and able to stand up and ensure that someone's constitutional rights are protected. I think that the best way to manage appointments from the indigent defense perspective is to make sure that appointments are made very early on in the proceeding. So typically you would want to do that at an arraignment or the first appearance hearing in Superior Court, where someone is notified as to what their charges are and sort of where the case goes from here. If you do that early, right up front, then someone does not have to worry about going into the next part of the process being unrepresented. And I think that courts can maintain very strict oversight of their cases in Superior Court, and judges control to a great extent when cases are brought in for trial, when they're brought in for calendar call, and basically keeping tabs on the cases that are on his or her docket. And so, it's important for judges to do just that, to keep tabs on what's going on, making sure those appointments for counsel are done early in the process. And I think we have a great system in Gwinnett County. I would love to see us get more talent in our on our appointed list. We have some attorneys that are sort of retiring and going off our appointed list. And so that would be one thing I would advocate for is to find ways to attract new talent on that list.
Thank you. I'm going to give you the next question since you're up. What steps would you take to build trust and confidence in the judicial system, particularly amongst communities that may feel historically underserved or skeptical of courts? We know that sometimes is the issue in Black and Brown communities. How would you address that?
Well, I think one of the things that I personally have committed to doing is being present in the community, and to some extent that is difficult to do as a judge. As you can understand, there can be some concerns about judges being accessible to the public all the time, but I think it's important to understand the needs of the community, what their concerns are about the court processes, and what we can do to make it better. And so I think that's part one of the process, is hearing people from those marginalized communities, hearing their voices. What is it that they see being the barriers to access to justice? I think it's important for us to educate the public about court processes and where individuals can go to get resources. That is something that I, again, have taken upon myself to do in my spare time, not because I have to, but because I think it's important for people to know where to go to turn for help. I think we have to simplify the processes as much as we can so that people do feel comfortable coming into a court. I think we have to understand as judges that our demeanor is important. When people walk into the courtroom, they need to feel respected. They need to feel like they have dignity. And I think all of that plays a very critical role in making sure that people do have confidence in the judiciary. Having judges with the requisite qualifications to serve is important, because you can't have confidence in a judicial system if you have judges who aren't equipped to serve. I think making sure that we adhere to the ethical standards that we're required to adhere to as judges helps to improve the confidence that people have in the judiciary. And I believe acting ethically happens on and off the bench. And so again, all of those things are things that I keep at the forefront of my mind, and I'm committed going forward to continuing to advocate for ensuring that our community is absolutely confident that no matter what their zip code is, what their status is, that they will be treated with the dignity and fairness and justice that everyone is entitled to under our law.
Thank you, Judge Matthews. Same question for you, DA Toole. What steps would you take to build trust and confidence in the judicial system, particularly amongst communities that may feel historically underserved or skeptical of courts?
So one of the things I believe is being accessible. We have to come out of chambers and come to the people, because when we are elected, when I am elected, the people are my boss. And so I need to come from behind that rope and be accessible to them when they have concerns, when they have complaints, when they just need to be heard. So that's number one. Number two is to be transparent. And transparency is what we need, because a lot of people don't have faith in the judicial system at all. So transparency is ruling clearly and making sure that the record is clear, making sure that I am letting them know I'm ruling this way based on this case, and this is why I'm ruling. And then being accountable, holding myself to a high standard, that when I do my best job and I put my rulings out there, I put my orders out there, that I stand by them, because I know that what I have done is follow the law, and I know what I have done is in the best interest of the litigants, of the family, and of those who are accused of a crime. So being accessible, being transparent, and holding myself to a high standard.
Excellent. Now I'm going to pivot over to qualifications and experience. And since you are on the screen, DA Toole, this question is going to be for you. How has your legal experience prepared you to handle the broad jurisdiction of Superior Court, including criminal, civil, and family law matters?
So obviously, being a prosecutor, I have a significant amount of experience dealing with criminal cases. But what people don't know is I have experience with family cases, and I have had experience with civil cases. I have been in the courtroom for over 20 years. And so you don't get that kind of time in the courtroom and not learn about it. Judges are supposed to follow the law. As a prosecutor and the gatekeeper of criminal charges, for an example, I'm the one that looks at the charges that the police bring, and I make sure that it is within the boundaries of the law. Is this a murder? Is this a burglary? Is this an aggravated assault? Also, I know what the law requires for evidence. I'm a trial lawyer, so I know the rule of evidence. I know how to get evidence in. I know about objection. I know about motions. I've had motions all the way up to the Court of Appeals. I understand that because I have had over 20 years of experience. So when it comes to a case where the stop is bad, the search is bad, the statement was illegal, I know not to bring that in, because I'm not going to waste the court's time with bringing in stuff that is illegal. And the same thing with dealing with family law. I understand what you have to take in consideration. I understand what the law dictates, as well as with civil experience. You can't be in a courtroom as long as I have been in a courtroom and not gain the experience needed, not understand the law, not understand how to interpret the law and to apply the law, not with that kind of experience. So that's what I bring to the table.
All right. Thank you. And the same question for you, Judge Matthews. How has your legal experience prepared you to handle the Superior Court caseload, including criminal, civil, and family law matters?
Yes, and I think this is where I am distinguished in this race, distinguishable from the other candidates. The breadth of my professional experiences have prepared me to serve in exactly this role. I started out, as I indicated, my legal career as a public defender, In that role, I primarily handled and tried cases in Superior Court, felony criminal cases. From that point in my career, I went on into private practice where I continued to do criminal defense work. I added family law practice into my practice. And I also was trained and received certification as a civil mediator. So what that means is basically I was appointed to mediate high complex civil cases, and that was part of my practice. I've served as a senior staff attorney in Gwinnett Superior Court. I've served as a law clerk for the United States District Court in the Northern District of Georgia. And as I mentioned at the outset, I currently serve in Superior Court by designation every day. You don't get much more experience than that. I've handled the felony cases. I've handled the family law cases, both as a practitioner and as a judge. Today and every day, just about, I sit on the bench in Superior Court making the very decisions that our Superior Court judges are expected to make. I rule in family law cases. I rule in felony criminal cases. I handle complex civil litigation. That is what I do every day. And again, this is where I'm distinguished in this race. I think I'm uniquely qualified based on the sum total of my experiences, both as a practicing lawyer before I took the bench and in my current role that I've currently served in for the past 6 years, actually doing the job of a Superior Court judge.
Thank you. And I understand we have a few questions in the chat, so we will take those questions now. Looking for them. When crime has caused real harm to a person in this community, how do you weigh punishment against repair? Do you see those existing programs as part of a broader restorative justice philosophy? And Judge Matthews, I'll have you take that question.
Yeah, and that's a great question. And it's something that I grapple with every day on the bench because, you know, as a judge, you have a responsibility to different stakeholders. You have a responsibility to the community. And certainly there is a responsibility to keep the community safe. And we have to hold people accountable. But accountability can look different based on the facts and circumstances of each individual case. And there is a necessity for judges to align accountability with restorative practices when we can do that. And there are often opportunities for us to align accountability with getting people help, getting people treatment and therapies that will prepare them for re-entry once they do complete their sentence, whatever that sentence looks like. Because what we don't want is to keep the revolving door of recidivism going. So in a lot of cases, we do have the opportunity to address restorative practices that seek to heal not only the individual that may have been harmed, but the accused and the community. And that is something, again, that I do every day in my practice as a judge, sitting and hearing these cases. It's an issue that's very real to me. And in every instance that I get, I do certainly try to align all of those interests when trying to figure out what is the best thing to do in this particular case.
Okay, thank you. And the same question for DA Toole. If we could have that question back on the screen, there we go. How do you balance the real harm to the community against the need for punishment and repair?
So I do that in my role as a deputy district attorney. I have to make sure that my victim is made whole, and then I also have to do my duty to restore the accused, because our goal is to reduce recidivism. One of the great ways that I do it is when I was brought back to the deputy district attorney position was to create a diversion program. And so I and two others created this diversion program where we balance that. We look at the charge, we look at the criminal history of the accused. We speak with the victims, and then if they qualify, they get to come into the program. Our program teaches them classes, life skills. If it's a domestic violence class because of a grant, we have mandatory counseling for the accused. We have free counseling for the victim and free counseling for children that may have been a victim. We also help them get a job. For instance, with the Carpenters Union, we help them go back to school, and then we help them plan for the future by way of a vision board. And so if they do all of that, then we will dismiss the charge and restrict the record, giving them a second chance. But at the same time, if the victim is owed restitution, we make sure that they give the restitution. We also do community service. So that's the way, for an example, that I balance making sure the victim is made whole and feels safe, make sure that they don't come back into the criminal justice community by doing another crime, thereby keeping the community safe, and then giving them the services they need so that they don't come back, therefore making the defendant or the accused whole. And so that's my answer for the question.
Thank you. And the next question will be for Judge Matthews. What does it mean to protect the best interest of a child while respecting the rights of parents?
Again, this is a balancing act that I do in family law cases that I preside over every day. And in custody cases, for example, we are bound to follow the best interest of the child standard when evaluating, for example, custody decisions. And so I often tell litigants, parents come into those types of cases wanting, their outcome, their desired outcome, and usually those are very divergent requests or requested outcomes. And my role as the judge is to not really, and I hate to say it this way, not really pay much attention to what it is that the parents want, because the law requires me to do what I feel is in the best interest of the child under the facts and circumstances, again, of that particular case. And so my duty is always to look at the facts, look at the evidence, and determining based on the factors that are listed specifically in a statute that deals with custody and what factors should be applied in custodial cases in determining, which parent should have what custodial rights. And so I look at those factors, I look at the evidence in the case, and based on that, I determine what is in the best interest of the child, and that is ultimately my duty. And, I don't honestly look to what it is that the parents want or what the parents think is best, because that's not what the law requires of me.
Okay, thank you. Same question for you, DA Toole. How do you balance best interest of the child in a family law matter and the rights of the parent?
And so the law is very clear, obviously the best interest of the child and the standard that needs to be applied in making that determination. And I agree, it may not be what the child, which, for instance, what parent the child may want, or it may not be what the parent wants. Our goal and our job is to keep a child safe, to make sure that they're nurtured, they're provided for, and they're cared for. And so I would follow those standards in making sure that in whichever parent, has the child, that they're in a safe, healthy, thriving, happy community and home. Because obviously, as we know, and I know we say it all the time, that our children are our future. The only way they can be successful and thriving if we as judges put them in the best place to thrive. So I would follow the standards and the factors, and I would make sure that wherever this child is placed, they are definitely in a wholesome place to thrive and be happy.
Oh, excellent. Thank you. And the next question, since I have you on the screen, is going to be for you as well. And that question is, when public safety interests conflict with constitutional rights of the accused, what is the primary legal principle you would use to decide which one takes priority?
I'm not sure if I necessarily understand that question, so this is how I will answer it. Okay. My job is not to create a law or to go outside the law. So my job as a judge is to always follow the law. And I believe that as it is, the law is written in mind to keep the public safe and also to rehabilitate the accused. So my goal will always be to follow the law. Now, I will always give anyone who's in the courtroom who has an interest in the case an opportunity to speak and to speak to what their needs are, what their concerns are, and I would take it in consideration. But I would never go against the law, because when you are elected and you take that oath, your job is to follow the law. And as I tell a lot of times my jury, when I'm on jury trial, and I tell them, if you disagree with the law, don't say not guilty, because you disagree with the law. You took an oath to follow the law. If you disagree with the law, go down to the Gold Dome, because it is the Gold Dome, the legislators, who make the law. Our job is to follow it as it is written.
Thank you. Thank you. Same question for you too, Judge Matthews. When public safety interests conflict with constitutional rights of the accused, what is the primary legal principle you use to decide which one takes priority?
So I think protecting public safety interests and protecting and ensuring constitutional protections of the accused are protected can coexist. They're not mutually exclusive. And as I've stated repeatedly today, my paramount duty is to follow the law. And that includes the Constitution of the state of Georgia and the Constitution of the United States. Our constitutions afford individuals protected rights. And, there's just no sort of gray lines there. I mean, it's very black and white. The accused has certain protections, and it is the duty of the judge to ensure that those fundamental rights that are afforded under our constitutions are afforded to that individual, and that those rights are protected at all costs. Obviously, as a judge, as someone who lives in this community, as someone who raises children in this community, I am concerned about public safety. And so make no mistake about it, I am going to do my job as a judge in instances where I can to ensure that the people who need to be away from the rest of us are absolutely away from the rest of us, because public safety is important. And as part of our justice system, judges have a critical role in ensuring that our public is safe. And so I have that duty, and I will adhere to that duty. But I think, again, you can do that and also ensure that constitutional protections that we're required to afford to individuals are absolutely upheld.
All right, thank you. We have another question from the audience, and I'm going to give that to Judge Matthews. What specific actions, not just values, will you take as a Superior Court judge to address racial disparities in sentencing, access to legal resources, and courtroom experiences for people of color in Gwinnett County? That's a very good question. Thank you, Ms. Rushing.
That is a great question. And I talked a little bit earlier about how I am out in the community providing access to or giving information to our communities so that they can understand how to best access legal resources. That is something that I do, again, in my free time, because I think it is important for our citizens to know where they can find help. In Gwinnett County, there's tons of resources, and I think we just don't hear about them enough. But that's why I've taken it upon myself to do that. And I'm sorry, the question went off the screen. I know it was a long question, so I don't want to. Okay, there we go. What other actions do I take? Racial disparities, I know some people don't like to hear it, but racial disparities exist. They exist in every, form and in every, system that we have. And it is what it is. As a judge, again, I look at the facts of the case and the evidence presented, and I don't think someone's racial makeup, someone's ethnic makeup, or any status should ever come into sentencing. And I take steps every day to make sure that everyone who comes into my court is treated fairly. Unfortunately, judges can sentence in their courtrooms as they see fit. And so that does result sometimes in there being disparate sentences that may be handed out by a certain judge versus, what a judge down the hall might do. And I don't really know there's a way to level that out. But I assure you that every day that I serve on the bench, that I am going to ensure that justice is for all as it is intended.
Okay, thank you. Same question for you, DA Toole.
So I think when it comes to sentencing and trying to level out the issue that the person asking the question is to make sure that there's a standard you have when you are sentencing. So for me, it would be listening to the victims and witnesses, having an opportunity, given an opportunity for the accused to speak, looking at the facts and evidence that was presented either at trial or either during a negotiated plea or a non-negotiated plea, and then reviewing the statute and seeing the sentencing range for that particular charge, and then looking at the criminal history of the accused, and then finally trying to determine what is in the best interest of the community as far as safety and reducing recidivism. When you use that factor and you take race out of it, the goal would be that all sentencing would be just based on those factors and not the race of the individual. And I think that's the best way to eliminate that. Have standards that have nothing to do with the race of the accused.
Thank you. And this will be the last question before we do your closing arguments. Can you give an example of a difficult decision that you've made in your legal career and how that experience would inform your approach on the bench?
So I have had cases where you have victims that are adamant they want life in prison or they want death in prison. And I've had to have those hard conversations with victims, to sit down with them, show them what the law requires, show them what the statute requires and what the sentencing range is. And so a lot of times you have those victims that want the moon and the stars, and the statute doesn't require it. And so what I do is try to educate my victims to have them understand. So I have that a lot. I have it a lot where they think that the punishment needs to be life when the punishment may be up to 5 years in prison. So the approach that I would take is to educate when I am giving my sentencing or when I'm making decisions, educate both parties at the same time. This is what the law requires. This is what the law dictates. This is what my ruling is, and this is why I'm ruling that way. And they may not agree with it, but I hope that they leave knowing she followed the law. And so that's the way I think I can answer that question best.
Thank you. Same question for you, Judge Matthews. Can you give an example of a difficult decision you've made in your legal career and how that experience would inform your approach on the bench?
So I don't do well with trying to pick out a specific instance where I've had to make a difficult decision, because I have to make those every single day on the bench. And it is never lost on me the significance of the decisions that I make. And that's sort of one of the difficult things about being a judge, is you have to be okay with making those tough decisions. And some of those decisions may be unpopular decisions. There are decisions that I wrestle with. And that's the side that people don't always see. They see the outcome, but they don't see that, when coupled with what we hear in the courtroom, the facts and the evidence that are presented, and the law, most importantly, that we are required to apply, sometimes the result, may not be what you think is fair. But I think Attorney Toole is right that if you give a ruling and you explain the ruling, that ruling being based in the law, I think that people hopefully will, even if they don't agree with your ruling, they will understand that this judge did what the law requires of her. And, sometimes there are laws that I have to apply. I may not necessarily agree with the law, but I'm not a legislator. So I have to take the law as it is and use that law in reaching the result. Again, our duty is to follow the rule of law. And those decisions, as I said, sometimes are difficult. I struggle with some of them a lot. And, someone's always going to be upset, usually, when they walk away from the courtroom. And that's just sort of a cross I have to bear as a judge, and just being okay with some people just not being very happy with me. But I sleep well at night knowing that I have, stayed true to my oath, that I have treated people with dignity and respect, but most of all, that I've followed the rule of law, which is what I've took an oath to do.
Okay, thank you. So, Judge Mackey, since you got the first question, I'm going to let you give your closing first, and Deputy DA will give us the final argument.
Thank you again to the Gwinnett NAACP. This has been such a pleasurable experience. I hope that those that are listening really got to hear what my vision is for Superior Court. I will tell you that serving as a magistrate court judge in Gwinnett County, serving the people of the Gwinnett County, the community that I love so much, it has been truly one of my greatest honors. And based on all of the things we talked about today, I truly believe that I am the Superior Court judge that Gwinnett County deserves. I'm not running to advance my political career or to achieve some sort of personal quota or to add a line on my resume. I do this work because I care about the people of this county. I care about the law. I'm a child of the law, as I like to say. But I choose the people of Gwinnett County every day. And so I'm asking them to choose me. I have a broad coalition of supporters in this race that have supported me, many of whom are elected officials in Gwinnett County and other leaders. But most importantly, the people who practice law in our courts every single day. I have a broad coalition of prosecutors, defense attorneys, family law attorneys, general civil practitioners. And you don't get that type of broad support by hovering in the shadows. You get it from showing up every day, rolling up your sleeves, doing the hard work, making the hard decisions, but doing so in a way that upholds the dignity of the judiciary above all. I wasn't gifted this type of support. I earned every bit of it. As I stated, I know the decisions that we make every day impact people in real ways. That is never lost on me. I will continue to be the judge that shows up. I will continue to be the judge that is a judge of the people. I will continue to do what is required to uphold the confidence of the judiciary, to give people the type of judge that you can be proud of. I will do what is right. I will do what is just, what is fair, and what the law requires every day that I serve. I will never back down to doing what my oath requires me to do. It would be my pleasure to serve as your next Gwinnett County Superior Court judge. You can find more information on my campaign at judgematthews.com. And again, thank you all for listening and for letting me be a part of this experience.
Thank you. And now the final word from Deputy District Attorney Ramona Toole.
Thank you. This has been my passion since the 8th grade. I made the decision in 8th grade that I wanted to protect the most vulnerable members of our society, which are the children. I had an opportunity as a young child to be in front of a judge that was very dismissive of me and my requests, and I paid for that in the long runs in a bad way. And so I decided that I wanted to be that judge that cared for the people, gave them an opportunity to be heard, treating them with dignity and respect. Now, I didn't understand then what it meant to follow the law, but over 2 decades of being in the courtroom with actual and practical trial experience, I understand. Gwinnett needs a judge that will follow the law without fear and favor. And if that is what you need, that is what I bring. Gwinnett needs a judge that's going to make sure these cases are pushed forward. That's what I'm going to do. And Gwinnett needs a judge that would treat them with dignity and respect. And because I understand that personally what that means, I'm going to give you that. Now, when you look at the qualifications of a judge, it needs someone who's going to follow the law. And I've been doing that my entire legal career. And so I may not have judicial experience, but we have great judges who started off as magistrate court judge. We have great judges who did not start off as magistrate court judge. They just knew that they wanted to follow the law. And that's what I'm going to do. I've been doing it and I will continue to do it. And let it be known right now, I don't need on the job training. I am ready now. And so I ask you to please check out my website at toolforjudge.com and give me an opportunity to bring my experience, my love for the law, my desire to follow the law, and my desire to help my community. Yes, I bring my family here, my niece, my nephew, I raised them here. This is my community. This is my home for over 24 years, and I care about it. And so I'm going to bring my best me every day that I come to that bench. Every day I'm going to be the best I can be for the people, for my community, and to make my family proud. So I ask you to consider me to be your next Gwinnett County Superior Court judge.
Thank you. And thank you to both candidates and to everyone who joined us tonight. The role of the Superior Court judge is critical, impacting justice, fairness, and the lives of everyone in this county every day. Tonight's discussion highlighted the importance of experience, integrity, and the ability to manage a busy courtroom while protecting the rights of everyone who comes into that courtroom. So we encourage you to research both candidates at Tool for Judge and judgematthews.com. Stay engaged, do your research, and more importantly, make your voice heard at the ballot box. Thank you.
And I want to thank both Deputy DA Ramona Toole as well as Judge Regina Matthews for joining us. I'm putting them backstage once I get my buttons together for being part of tonight's candidate forum. It is a 3-person race. BT Gutter Parker is the third candidate that's running due to some miscommunication between her team and our civic engagement or political action committee when we was trying to contact her about being part of this program, which she was not able to make tonight's forum. But she is also the other candidate that's on the ballot. So we asked you to learn about her. And I will always say, for those of you, because I've seen some comments and we shared those who some of you all support Judge Matthews, some of you all support Deputy DA Ramona Toole. We put their links on the screen for you all to donate, learn more about them, support their campaign. I know a lot of y'all like to give to President Biden and Vice President Harris and current President Trump when they was all these different candidates were running for office, but it's really your local candidates that need those funds when they're running. It's very expensive, as Attorney Karen Scott Green, who was a candidate herself at one point, will tell you. It costs them a lot of money to put these campaigns, and a lot of times a lot of candidates end up spending their own personal money to run these campaigns. So to me, your $100, your $20, your $50 will go a lot farther supporting your local candidates than it would be giving it to a lot of these major races, that are your federal races. They get all the attention, like your gubernatorial races, like your I would probably say a little bit higher than that, presidential races, like some of your Senate races, things like that for United States Senate. I ain't telling y'all not to donate to ISOF, so don't get me in trouble. But I am saying
the local races
the local races have more impact, and he got deeper pockets than a lot of these local candidates that may be running for school board, that may be running for judge, that may be running for sheriff, that may be running for county commissioner, that may be running for state house and state senate, which, as the two candidates just explained, impacts the laws, because their job as judges is to interpret the law. It's not their job to try to go and rewrite the law. So thank you, both candidates, for being part of the platform. Thank you to Attorney Karen Scott Green for moderating this. I also want to thank all of those who you all in the chat. I'm sorry we couldn't get to you all's questions tonight, as we was trying to be respectful to the candidates' time as much as possible with the program. But follow them in their pages, follow their social media. I'm sure they'll be at other different events across Gwinnett County, and you can take some of the questions you put here and either ask them directly on their website, or show up to their next event that they'll be speaking at, and ask those great questions that y'all put in the chat. We appreciate the engagement. Please like this on YouTube. Please share this on Facebook. And early voting has already started, right? It's already started, so you can vote now. The great thing about Georgia, you can vote at any of the early voting precincts. For those of you who live in Gwinnett County, I'm gonna kind of name some of the early voting precincts that y'all may not be familiar with. So if you live in the Grayson, Loganville side of Gwinnett County, you can vote at the fire station off of Zora Road. Of course, if you live in downtown Lawrenceville or off of 124 Lawrenceville, you can go to Rose Jordan Park and vote. If you live in the Swanee Beaufort area, George Pearson Bogan Park is an early voting precinct. For those of you who in Liburn, Mountain Park, Snellville, they still have not opened up Lenora, but you can vote at the Gwinnett Community Resource Center in the Centerville area. Lucky Shows for those of you who are in the Norcross area, Duluth area, Shorty Howe Park. Those of you who in Peachtree Corners, Berkeley Lake, Pinckneyville Park. So any of the early voting precincts, you can vote at. Go to www.mvp.sos.ga.gov. Again, www.mvp, and it's on the screen now. www.mvp.sos.ga.gov. Check your status, check your early voting locations. Early voting will end on May 15th. So take advantage of voting during this period. As I always say, bank your vote. Bank it early. That way you ain't got to be stressing on May 19th on election day about voting. You can just sit back and look for the results. Thank you all for all your questions and comments tonight. Just to recap, like I said, a couple of upcoming candidate forums that we do have upcoming next week, so y'all can be prepared for that. May 5th, we'll be at Hopewell Missionary Baptist Church in Norcross, so not the one out in Loganville area, and we'll be at the Hopewell in Norcross. May 5th, for our gubernatorial candidate forum, that will be live. It will be live streamed, but it will be in person as well, so that way you can come out and meet the candidates running for governor. May 7th, we'll be at Grayson High School for the school board. We know that the school board has been a hot topic, especially with how the superintendent search went down. I know a lot. We were fired up about and disappointed about how that, kind of came down, because it was supposed to be a 3-person interview, and it turned into a 1-person interview. But congratulations again to Dr. Australia on becoming a new superintendent and being the solo finalist. But we will have a candidate forum with the school board candidates on May 7th at Grayson High School. So you can come out, be prepared to ask your questions. We'll have prepared questions from our education committee. That's May 7th. Both of these events will be at 6 p.m. The one in Norcross for the gubernatorial race starts at 6 p.m. The one at Grayson High School, doors will open at 6 p.m. at Grayson High School for the school board candidate for Gwinnett County School Board District 2 and District 4. And then, of course, May 12th, Congressional District 13. We will have pretty much, I would say, just about all the candidates for Congressional District 13 in for the Democratic primary meet the candidate forum. That is the late David Scott's district. And that district pretty much makes up, I think, Grayson, Loganville, Decula, parts of Lawrenceville, Henry County, Clayton County, but I'm gonna stick with Gwinnett specifically. So if you live on that sort of part of Snellville, Loganville, Grayson part of Gwinnett County, Decula, that this is your district. Like I said, the MVP website, you can check your congressional district. But please come out. All of these events, we will have snacks and food for you to eat. So like I said, we open the doors at 6 so y'all can eat first, because some of these locations you cannot take the food inside. So come as early as possible. Most of these forums will probably start around 6:30, 6:40. We'll get started with these candidate forums. And as you know, if you enjoyed this platform, we try to keep that same energy and ask these informative questions for those platforms as well. Thank you all again for attending tonight. And as I always say, I will see you all in these Gwinnett County streets. Yeah, have a good night.
Good night. Thank you.